Welcome to Gone Phishing, a show diving into the cybersecurity threats that surround our highly connected lives. Every human is different. Every person has unique vulnerabilities that expose them to potentially successful social engineering. On this show, we'll discuss human vulnerability and how it relates to unique individuals. I'm Connor Swalm, CEO of FinSecurity, and welcome to Gone Phishing. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Gone Phishing. I'm your host, Connor, CEO at FinSecurity, and today we have a friend of mine, Brian Mahon. He has worked for 3 different cyber insurance agencies in the last 7 years. One was a startup, one was private equity backed, and one was privately owned. I don't think there's any other kind of ownership that a company could have, so it looks like you've worked in every single type, Brian.
No worries. Yeah, thanks for having me, Connor. We've probably had what we're going to discuss today on this episode and future episodes. Just between the two of us, probably 80% of this content's been rehearsed or discussed. So happy to finally get it out into the airwaves.
Oh, absolutely. I've had an incredible amount of conversations about cybersecurity insurance, not only with you, with some other guests that we've had on the podcast. And I guess if people knew how much I talked about cyber insurance, they'd probably think my life was incredibly boring. So I guess we'll just leave it at that. One thing I've definitely chatted about a ton, just because of the impact it can have on cyber insurance policies, is sublimits. So can you explain to us, for me, because I'm not licensed at all in the insurance world, what is a covered and what is a common sublimit?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, cyber insurance is designed for financial loss coverage for users of technology, right? So any MSP's client would be a candidate for cyber insurance, really, because they're utilizing the services of an MSP. And there's a ton of different coverages, but a few we see coming up regularly that either aren't in the policy and should be, or maybe you think you have $1 million of coverage and you really don't. Maybe you have 100,000 or 250,000. Things like bricking, which insurance people get confused about because that's an IT word. And part of the problem with cyber insurance is just the language barrier. You have to know, the insurance lingo and the information technology lingo. So bricking refers to, at least when it comes to a cyber insurance policy, a breach is so bad that your server, your hardware, your endpoints, your laptop, your phone, whatever is damaged so bad that it's as useless as a brick, right? So a lot of insurance carriers will sublimit, hardware replacement or bricking coverage. So that's one common sublimit to watch out for. Another one is cyber crime. We're on the Go Phishing Podcast. Phishing is often sublimited on a cyber policy to maybe $100,000 of coverage, $250,000 of coverage. So that's concerning because, that's something that's happens more frequently from a claim perspective, but also business owners might think they have $1 million of coverage for things like that. So kind of that cyber crime, phishing, social engineering, funds transfer fraud. A lot of carriers have different language there. Another, and I'll kind of move on, but one sublimit I like mentioning too is this concept of betterment, right? You ever heard of Moore's Law, Connor, where, IT, doubles every 6 months or something crazy?
Oh yeah, like the capacity for storage doubles every, I think it was like 8 months or something a while ago, but I'm very unfamiliar with it, but I have heard that.
Yeah. So, in an insurance policy, you're insuring, data and computers, and come breach time, if you need to replace some of that hardware, you can't get your server from 10 years ago. It's not manufactured anymore. Right. So insurance carriers kind of include sublimits referred to as betterment, like, they cap, so they're capping the sublimit there, or they're using a sublimit to cap the coverage there. So you're not going to get, well, you might not, depending on how bad the claim is, but you obviously can't, the whole point of, I guess, let me go back. The point of insurance is you have to, you're buying coverage to put you in the same place you were before an incident happened. So when it comes to betterment, that's not really possible. You can't get a 10-year-old server. So you have to get, the latest and greatest computer or server, which costs more.
Right.
So carriers are capping coverage there. Expensive, obviously, to get all new IT equipment.
So it sounds like sublimits are a way for insurance policies to kind of split out the unique risks that, I'll just throw out a really popular cyber ransomware might pose to an organization, as opposed to something you and I talk about a lot: phishing emails and compromised accounts that come from that, and the like.
Yeah, ransomware and extortion is another one that, some carriers are adding sublimits, co-insurance, higher deductibles. So there's all sorts of, I always say the devil is in the details with these things. So, saying, oh, yeah, I've got this carrier at this price and, it went up and I'm unhappy. I mean, you really have to look at, what endorsements or changes to that policy were thrown in, what sublimits there are, what exclusions there are, carve backs. So it takes somebody who actually reads these things for a living to understand them. It's very difficult for someone who might come across their policy once a year, or an MSP, maybe a couple dozen times or more, where versus an agent or a broker that they're doing it all the time.
And for the folks that are listening, that's why I have always recommended, if you have to ever understand cyber insurance policies, or your client puts a renewal in front of you and you need to attest to certain things, which can get pretty squirrely sometimes, that they should always reach out to an expert like you, experts like Fifth Wall, and other experts at cyber insurance groups. I don't even know the right terminology. Broker's not the right word, but somewhere.
Yeah. Insurance agent, insurance broker, someone who understands cyber liability insurance, and I agree with Connor on that. And quickly, that application that these MSPs clients are saying, hey, my cyber insurance renews in 30 days. Can you help me? We need this questionnaire. MSPs certainly should help. They shouldn't be signing those. A lot of IT folks who come to me and they're frustrated because there's a lot of yes or no questions on those applications. Right. You have to understand, some legal underwriting insurance person created that form, not an IT person. So I always encourage folks to, if it's a yes, no question, treat it like fill in the blank, mark up that document as much as possible to give a clear, honest representation of what IT controls are actually in place at that time. Because when the CFO or the business owner or whoever finally does sign off on that application becomes part of the policy. And a policy is a legally binding contract. Come claim time, you better bet if you said you had XYZ control and come claim time you didn't, the carrier can and will deny your claim.
Yeah. I remember talking with Wes Spencer about that, where there was I believe this was the right scenario, where there was a policy where phishing had allowed a malicious individual to get into the company, whether it was through a breached account or just, sending attachments and having them download them. And then the insurer found out that they weren't doing that company wasn't doing the proper security awareness training. And so they're like, hey, your account was compromised. You didn't put the right measures in place that we had stipulated in the sublimit. Therefore, goodbye. We're not paying out, which was like a huge shock to these folks. So, sublimits have big impact.
They do, and especially for small business owners. I mean, good luck, suing your insurance company if they deny a claim. Right.
And I think a statement that I went and talked with you and I talked with other experts is like, cyber insurance policies went from like maybe 8 or 9 pages as of 5 years ago to like 30, 40, 50 pages of, are you doing this? How are you doing it? How often do you do this? Do you regularly audit X, Y, and Z?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the coverage, I guess, originated and started kind of in the .com boom or bubble.
Yeah.
It was kind of an extension of like media liability. And, 5, 7+ years ago, it was, what's your name? What's your revenue? What do you do? Okay, here's a quote. And now it's, do you have MFA? Do you have EDR? Do you do security awareness training? Have you had a claim before? If so, tell us a very long story and then give us the incident report. So COVID did completely change the cyber insurance industry. And really, I think a lot of it had to do with they were giving it away for a long time. I mean, very little underwriting, very low premiums, okay coverage. Then everybody went to go work from home. We were all much more vulnerable from like an IT defense perspective. And, the carriers are in business to make money, and they started losing a lot of money over COVID. I think, the top 10, maybe the top 3 of the top 10 cyber insurance carriers, I believe in like 2021 were losing money so pretty severely. And so they had to kind of correct course, and the outcome of that has been an increased push and mandate for IT controls and increased premiums, and a lot of industries really just getting left behind.
You mentioned it briefly there, but how has COVID changed cyber insurance? I know it's changed the working environment. A lot of companies are now have at least a hybrid opportunity for their employees, if not fully remote. Commercial office space is left unrented because, well, now we have a huge amount of people that would continue to enjoy that freedom. But how has that changed cyber insurance?
Yeah, I guess to add a little bit to that, I mean, cyber insurance has evolved. It's funny, there's a carrier out there called Evolve, and that's kind of where they got their name from. And just like all of us, I mean, humans are adaptable. So, work from home, they don't even ask anymore. They assume. They, pay much more attention to, good backups, MDR, EDR, phishing security awareness training. I mean, it's no longer, who you are and what do you do, but it's
what's your heartbeat? Here's your policy.
Yeah. It's what do you have inside going on? And underwriters are getting more sophisticated. I mean, they're using tools like BitSight to do kind of external scans. They use that in conjunction with the cyber insurance application. So it's really just matured, and I think for the better. We're seeing premiums start to kind of flatten a bit now that these IT controls really have been implemented. Everybody is in a better standpoint from a risk perspective.
Yeah, I view this like cyber insurance is catching up to other insurance industries. And I'll give a real pedantic example, like floodplains, like having to buy flood insurance for your own. Why do you have to do that? Well, it's like, the cost of your flood insurance policy is directly correlated with what is the likelihood of a flood happening in this area over 20 years, 50 years, 100 years, 500 years. I forget the amount of time frames for flood policies. But there was no data for cyber insurance policies until recently. Now that companies view it as incredibly important, they're collecting it. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yeah. What you're getting at there is, systemic or catastrophic cyber risk. I mean, we're starting to think about, the Log4j and the Colonial Pipeline type of attacks, like SolarWinds. I mean, there's going to be another one. It's a matter of if and when and how bad, right? So there are a lot of parallels from cyber insurance to, either catastrophic flood or catastrophic property risks, like, the Hurricane Katrina, so to speak. So carriers are starting to kind of use some predictive analytics and model out what they think might happen and how bad it'll be. And then obviously they've been collecting claims data now for almost 25 years or so. So that's extremely helpful where, the property and other insurance marketplaces, they've been collecting data for way longer than that.
So I would guess if we could get one takeaway for everyone that's listening, it's that cyber insurance is now catching up to actually using the data to properly transfer risk. That's insurance, transferring risk to the people who wrote you the policy. Now it's getting accurate, which should be a good thing, right?
You would think. Yeah. I mean, we're definitely over the COVID days of 200% premium increases and last minute, IT control updates. So it's definitely a more sustainable marketplace and product, I'll say 2023 looking forward.
Awesome. Well, folks, if you have any questions about cyber insurance, or I guess if you're looking for a policy, can they reach out to you? Your information will be in the show notes, or your company's will.
Yeah. My information will be in the show notes. Happy to help whoever. I work at a independent insurance agency licensed in all 50 states, EHD Insurance, and then also have my own website, brianmahon.com, and insuranceformsps.com. So I'm all over.
Awesome. Well, we will definitely put that information in the notes for anyone that's listening and has some questions. And I am definitely going to have you back on so we can talk about my favorite topic, cyber insurance. But more importantly, what are some problems with cyber insurance? And I know you and I could talk about that forever, so we'll try to condense it down. But everybody, make sure you're going to listen in next time to me and Brian or anyone else we have on. Thanks so much for tuning in to Gone Phishing. If you want to find out more about high-quality security awareness training campaigns, how to launch them in ways that actually engage employees to change their habits, then check us out, FinSecurity, at finsec.io. That's PHINSEC.io. Or click all of the wonderful links in our show notes. Thanks for fishing with me today, and we'll see you next time.